Now it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. A lighter note today, as it is New Year's Eve, December 31st in South Korea right now. The country and much of the world is preparing to see in 2022, either with their family or friends. However, due to the pandemic, all the related lockdowns we're seeing, restrictions, as well as the health impact of COVID-19, 2021 was much like the previous year to that in many respects. However, let's not be overly pessimistic, as for one night at least, we can hope for a brighter chapter to open up in front of us. Now, the way society mark the changing of the year is as different as a number of cultures around the world, with some preferring big, rowdy get-togethers, others more quiet reflection in South Korea. There really is a mixture of the two. Generally, the younger people looking for a big night out. Then there's those who prefer to watch the ringing of the Bosingak Bell in Seoul, or heading, as we just heard in that report there, to Korea's east coast to see the first sunrise of the year.
For more on how New Year's traditions differ around the world and how we can still enjoy the occasion despite the pandemic, we are joined by Natalie Compton, a travel reporter for The Washington Post. Good morning, Natalie. Thank you for coming on, and Happy New Year to you.
Good morning.
Now, let's start. Well, for most of us, international travel is something we cannot indulge in this New Year's because of the pandemic. But what are some of the unique ways different cultures traditionally mark the New Year's?
So a lot of the common themes that you're going to see with cultures around the world, people love to celebrate with family and loved ones or symbolism. Some of the ones that I think are really fun are in Spain and parts of Latin America. People will eat 12 grapes, one in each chime leading into the new year. If you don't eat them in time, you have bad luck. Or in Greece, you hang onions, as onions are a sign of growth, birth. So Greek people will hang onions. There's a lot of very simple things done with or without coronavirus being an issue this year.
Okay, Natalie, if you wouldn't mind just lifting the mic a little bit closer to your mouth, because you're kind of breaking up during that past answer, but we heard the vast majority of it. But considering we can't go to Spain, as you mentioned, or any place like that due to the pandemic, you wrote in an article for the Washington Post about the ways we can do it ourselves, kind of recreate something similar at home. Of the ones you wrote about in that article, which people can check out online, which are your favorites? And if someone watching is looking to switch things up, they have something planned, but they want to change it last minute, do you have any quick and simple ones that we could potentially try tonight?
Sure. By far, the most simple and easy one is going to come from Denmark. All you have to do is take your shoes off, get on top of a chair, and at midnight, jump off that chair. This is symbolizing jumping into the new year, going out with a bang. If you don't jump off that chair, that's bad luck. So make sure you get that going right on time. One of my favorites comes from Japan. People in different prefectures will prepare their Japanese soba noodles in a particular way, depending on where you live. But these noodles symbolize a long and healthy new year, long and healthy relationship with your family, as well as cutting off the bad luck from the year before.
Well, maybe I'll get a bowl of noodles today. Well, depending on who you speak with, the New Year isn't limited to January 1st. Koreans mark two New Year holidays, January 1st and the Lunar New Year, or Seollal, which falls in February next year. Now, outside those two, what other New Year celebrations are common around the world?
You're right. People do not always celebrate on January 1st. We have in Russian culture, the Orthodox New Year falls about a week later. In Bali, actually, New Year's doesn't take place until March, and that celebration is much more somber than the ones that we've talked about. They spend the day in silence, meditating, really reflecting on the new year. So depending on where you are, it could look very serious or a little more fun and festive gathering with your family.
Right, well, I was just thinking instead I'd rather see you jump off a chair like they do in Denmark rather than eating noodles. But finally, because of COVID, a lot of people have no choice but to spend New Year at home. Perhaps they will invite some friends over. Do you have any tips on how, if we want to make our own New Year's Eve party at home, how best to do it in a fun, simple and manageable way, also safely, but all while giving that little international flair to it?
Something that brought me a lot of joy during lockdowns in the beginning of COVID was thinking about some of the travel that made me the happiest in my life, thinking back on those fond vacation memories, and recreating a dish by cooking something from the culture that you loved visiting. So maybe that is getting a bottle of mezcal, cooking up a Mexican feast for yourself on New Year's Eve. That could be getting French cheeses in a baguette and a bottle of champagne. So if there's a way that I recommend channeling travel during New Year's Eve to celebrate, I would say absolutely try to cook a meal from one of your favorite travel destinations.
All right. Well, Natalie, unfortunately, we're out of time. So thank you for the tips. Happy New Year and have a great 2022.
Thanks.